You thought the Diontae Johnson situation was over? Well, it is far from it, as there was another grim turn in the saga between the Ravens and the wide receiver. We talk about what happened, what his future is with the team, and so much more coming up next year on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day, free and available for you, all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, you can follow along, subscribe as well. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens show, so we bring you news, analysis, updates, the whole 9 yards when it comes to this Ravens team. We go live after every single Ravens game, every piece of big news. So if you want daily Ravens coverage, be sure to keep it locked in here on Locked On Ravens. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Down the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Here with me today on this Taco Tuesday, it is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion, Qadry Ismail. And Q, I know that when it comes to this Ravens team, they needed a win and they picked one up against the Giants in week 15. That's a big one. But of course, you can't get out of it without a little bit of drama this season, apparently, as we now have more news and more situation on the Deontay Johnson saga.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you look at what they did against the Giants. It's okay. We're the better team. We go out there, we whoop up on them. You leave no stone unturned, offense, defense, special teams, and you get out of there. And, like they said, 24-hour rule is kind of in flux because the game is Saturday. You got to turn the table and turn the page real quick for an opportunity to beat up on your division rival and get a Super Bowl berth. Yet at the same time, as you have pointed out, there is the little detail of Deontay Johnson and whether or not he's going to be on the team. But I think what is trending is the fact that the NFL Players Association and I think the CBA and how it might be worded, obviously with the situation out in San Francisco, there's some moving parts to this. But we know that from Deontay Johnson aspect, he's not going to be in the building the entire week, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Yep, and the statement the Ravens released on Monday, short and sweet, to the point, says we have mutually agreed with Deontay Johnson to excuse him from team activities this week. So, again, you're right on the money, Q. Not going to be able to see him this week. And then I guess at this point, unless we're told otherwise, it's, I guess, on a week-to-week basis because his suspension is up. This is just he's been excused. And, there's mutual agreement with that. And John Harbaugh was asked about it during his Monday press conference availability. You could just tell Q he was not happy that he had to answer questions about this. And look, it's what comes with the territory with a public situation like this and kind of how it's all gone. He said he was really like, let's just get to Pittsburgh. And all I want to focus on right now is the Steelers. He was asked about it. He said, do you foresee him practicing with the team again? He was asked. And John Harbaugh said, what I foresee, to be honest, is Pittsburgh. All I'm really thinking about is Pittsburgh right now, getting our team ready for Pittsburgh. So I won't be here this week. And next week will take care of itself. So I don't know if they have some solution that's already in the works, and we're going to hear about that next week or whatever it is. But Q, it kind of felt like there were 8 different ways the situation could have gone. We were talking about it last week or even the week prior to that. But it just feels like it's a never-ending situation. And, I think there was some wonder whether he would be able to be brought back with the team and if that would be a smooth transition. Would the locker room accept him back after what he did? Now it just feels like there's a different situation. And I don't really know what comes next after this.
I think that what comes next after this is, again, the Players Association, the league office. I think there's even rules in the collective bargaining agreement saying that you can suspend a player up, I believe it was up to 4 games for conduct detrimental to the team. I know there's been precedents when it comes to the bigger picture some years back when I believe it was Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Keyshawn Johnson, he was just told not to come back to the team. So they suspended him, I guess, with pay maybe. But, this kind of smells of that, where it's just this mutinous kind of infection that is, now metastasized, and you got to get rid of it before it gets worse. So I think for the Ravens, for the 49ers, it is a very delicate situation where you're just trying to you're trying to do what's best for your team's chemistry. Clearly, the Ravens are having the better year than the 49ers. So I think that they're a little bit more quick to, just do away with the situation and just suspend the dude. Whereas I think for the Ravens, they're just trying to be a little bit more delicate with it so it doesn't become an all-in-all distraction for what really is, I think, an opportunity to take care of business on Saturday, and take care of business on Saturday means you get a trip to the postseason.
Yeah, I'm with man. That Saturday Sunday stuff is throwing me off too. I'm like, oh hey, can't wait for the Ravens and Steelers to play on Sunday. Oh wait, no, it's actually a day earlier, and they got to play on Christmas Day on the road, mind you, for the second straight season. So all this craziness with the schedule, but again, it's also crazy with Diontae Q because there was a follow-up question to the original question that was, why not just release him? Why not? If it's a problem, if it's a distraction, why not just go out there and release him? And again, John Harbaugh very non-committal with his answer, but did say, I know you guys want to hear the story. There's a lot of moving parts and there are reasons for doing things that are front office type reasons. Do I want to sit here and get into all the calculations and different calculations that Eric makes? Eric DeCosta, obviously he means. I really don't. And he just said, I want to think about Pittsburgh. So he clearly is ready to just move on with this situation. I'm sure the team is too. But when John Harbaugh says front office reasons and different calculations, this is something you and I talked about last week, Q, and I think the week prior as well, where if you release Deontay Johnson and just say, all right, you're done, we don't want this anymore, goodbye. Well, who's he going to get picked up by? Because this isn't a question about Deontay Johnson's talent. In my opinion, I think he's a very talented player on the field, right? This to me is about, well, can you allow a guy who quit on the team like that and let his teammates down when they needed him to come back in that locker room and fully expect everybody to say, hey, Deontay, welcome back. How was your break? Like, hey, nice to see you. Super excited to have you back. Like Q, I want to go back to your playing days. What if you were in this situation specifically? Right? What if a guy quit on your team, came back in your locker room, and you can speak from whatever experience you have, or maybe a former teammate of yours had it, or you heard about it somewhere else. If a guy quit on the team like he did, comes back in the locker room, are you just welcoming him back with open arms? Or you're like, hey, man, I want an explanation, man. What was that?
No, I don't see that happening as far as just like, hey, we welcome you back with open arms. Everything is kumbaya. We all know that this is a very difficult and challenging sport, and it's a collision sport. And, the few that make it, you try to win games so you can continue to play the game. And, yeah, you get compensated very well with it. I think one of the things that is frustrating about this because you just don't know, why I think both players, Campbell and Johnson, decided to just shut it down. If, in fact, Diontae being a good dude is what guys are feeling like he was. Like, okay, but, what was it? Was it – see, here's the thing. Is it personal? Is it a scenario where you just feel like your body quit on you? I think it was who was the one player he was a defensive back from Denver, I believe it was Denver. And he – too, just halftime came and he was like, yep, I'm done. Vontae Davis. Again, he upped and was like, yep, I'm done. All right, cool, whatever. See ya, fellas. So, maybe it was at halftime. It wasn't quite as dramatic, but, he clearly didn't, finish the game, and he didn't get the rest of his contract, however that looked. And I think those are some of the issues. I think the bigger picture here is that from a teammate standpoint, no, you're not welcoming them back with open arms. From a NFL logistics and how you figure it out as far as the whole body of work with the collective bargaining agreement. And, it's not just now. It's like whatever happens, or what if this happens again? What does this look like? Who has jurisdiction? Is it, the commissioner? Is it the team? If it's the team, and if it's a personal, or I'm sorry, a team matter, what, rules are around that versus a league issue. So there's a lot more moving parts than you and I really, for our show, is going to really delve into.
Right. And that's the thing where I'm not going to sit here and say I 100% wholeheartedly agree with the way the Ravens utilized Diontae Johnson. I feel like they should have gotten him involved a little bit more and used his talent a little bit more. And I get that it's hard to bring in somebody from a new team midseason, get them fully acclimated and up to speed. That's a process, and it takes some time. It just feels like it's so much deeper than we know about. And obviously the franchise is letting on. So that's where it's just like, we don't really know how far and how deep this thing goes. But you're right. Like Devondre Campbell and that Vontae Davis thing you talked about, rest in peace to him. He's somebody that's one of my favorite stories ever, because Trey White told it on an Instagram Live with Shady McCoy, and he did it. So if you haven't seen the clip, I've posted it multiple times on my social media. It is one of the funniest things in the world. But that was early in the season. This obviously is down the stretch run. But I know, Q, for Deontay Johnson and his situation, I'm sure he's probably at this point, who knows, maybe like, hey, I want a different opportunity somewhere that's going to utilize me a little bit more. And Baltimore's like, well, hold on, not so fast. We don't really want to do that right now, because who knows if that's a Kansas City, who knows if that's a Buffalo, or if go back to Pittsburgh, maybe, crazily enough. Like, what happens in that situation? But it's interesting because
I want to pause on that though, and say, because of like, you're a bad seed. I get it. Hey, Pittsburgh got rid of him because of him being a malcontent in the locker room. And they're like, no, you can have him. Carolina got rid of him because he was a malcontent. Now the Ravens are getting rid of him. I agree with what you're saying. He is talented, and it would be intriguing to do, but it would be dumb when you're a playoff contending team to just think that, hey, we just getting talent to just come in and just expect it. I guess the only really, maybe running back, maybe, defensive back, because, it's just all right, go out there and cover. But other than that, there's so much that goes on into the different positions. Like, I don't know. I mean, it would be highly unlikely that any, like, Houston needs receivers, and I just don't see them even wanting to cross that bridge with him. Obviously Kansas City has DeAndre Hopkins. They traded for him. But Buffalo traded for Amari Cooper, but do they feel like they need another guy? Look, you just go down the list, and I don't see, after, you burnt bridges, bro. Like, no team wants to have a distraction when they're a good football team having an opportunity to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and you and I are on the same page with this, and I 100% agree with you. And it's such an interesting conversation. I want to dive into it more in the second part of the show, because I think there are multiple different layers to it, like you just mentioned there. So coming up, we'll talk about this conversation. We'll finish this off and then talk about the future of the wide receiver room, as well as Diontae Johnson a tiny bit more. But I think we're pretty encouraged by what we saw in Week 15 with the New York Giants and Baltimore Ravens with Baltimore's receivers. So stay tuned. A lot to get to on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. I love going to live events during the holidays. I'm looking forward to making new memories this holiday season. In fact, I already have. I went to see the Nuggets and the Wizards in DC. I'm a Nuggets fan, for those that don't know, and that was incredible to see them live in person. Now the Nuggets lost to the Wizards, so for me that wasn't great, but still, it was a great memory to have. And Gametime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets for your live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And for the Ravens, obviously, they have a big game against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday. If you want to find tickets for that, be sure to head over to Gametime. Gametime has super deals and other tiers of deals, and they have a ton of great features, including Gametime picks, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Gametime ticket coverage, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, spelled LOCKED1NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, your live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. So for the Ravens and Giants game on Sunday, maybe you had Rashad Bateman at 2+ touchdowns, or maybe you had Devontae Walker anytime touchdown. If you had that, you're probably living large over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back our second segment with Qadry Ismail. I am Kevin Ostreicher. We're talking Diontae Johnson. We're talking Baltimore Ravens football. And Q brought up a really good point. Q, I'm really glad you brought this up at the end of the first part of the show, because I am 100% with you on this, where which team would want to take this is a risk that it's risk reward with Deontay Johnson. And Baltimore took this risk reward, and obviously it did not pan out for them in the way that they were hoping. I think when it comes to playoffs or getting a guy like Diontae in for your stretch run, it comes down to how desperate are you, right? Are you desperate enough to take a chance on a guy and say, hey, we're going to give you X amount of snaps or whatever this is what your role is going to be, and we're going to hold true to it? And Deontay's like, hey, man, let's go win this Super Bowl. Or is the game flow going to go a little crazy at times? It's not going to be exactly what you guys talked about. And then all of a sudden, it's another problem because, as you mentioned, 3 stops for Diontae Johnson over the course of his career, 3 different issues. But I agree with you, because a lot of the conversation around Diontae is also about the compensatory pick. Baltimore obviously moved back a couple of spots in the 5th round to go get Diontae. And since they hold his I guess, compensatory pick rights or whatever you want to call it, if he goes and signs somewhere else and the contract is big enough, Baltimore, that will factor into their compensatory pick formula. Now, I can't remember the exact minimum that it was that actually got you in that formula. I think last year was $3 million, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if Deontay's getting a vet minimum or anything above a vet minimum at this point. At least talent-wise, sure, he could get it. But like you talked about, there are a lot of different other layers that you have to factor into that. So, I mean, let's say you're a team like the Patriots or the Giants or a team with a young quarterback, and you want to bring in a veteran leader as a wide receiver, someone who can help your locker room, can be a nice solid addition for your young quarterback, young wide receiver room. If I'm a general manager, I'm not looking at Deontay Johnson. I'm crossing him off my list and saying I don't want a guy who is, discontent with the role and isn't, all this different stuff, because it's not just like it's only happened in Baltimore. And so that's the thing where I think you're 100% correct, where it's like, look, Deontay's a talented player, but for the playoffs, which team is desperate enough to bring him in if he's cutting in the offseason? Is there going to be a team that's the right situation for him? Because the risk reward of it is, yeah, he's a great player, but is it going to be another distraction? And is that worth it for your football team?
It's just, that's the thing. Like, the fine line of winning now versus some general manager doing some formula about some compensatory pick that you don't even know if you're going to be the head coach or the position coach on that team to be coaching whatever pick that might or might not be a good pick to begin with. You try to win now. And so, yeah, like, general managers might be geeking out about the possibilities, but okay, go ahead and geek out. And now all of a sudden you're looking back and you're like, oh, yeah, the owner fired me because, we kind of messed up and brought in a malcontent. We had a great team and the locker room chemistry went to hell because of my trying to be all fancy with the spices. Like, bruh, don't do it. I mean, this is like a non-conversation. If I am any of those teams that are remotely in the playoffs, in the playoff hunt, I don't want that in my locker room. I know that we are a good football team. Sure, get better. But at what risk? You can do a heck of a lot better than worrying about some guy who is not really a good team player.
Yeah, look, who knows if we're going to hear Deontay's side of this while he's still with the team in Baltimore. I mean, I'm not sure Baltimore's going to give him any media availability over the course of the rest of his time with the team, because I think everybody knows what the line of questioning would be. But Baltimore was in need of a wide receiver, a depth wide receiver at the deadline. They shot their shot with Diontae. I'm not sure they thought a player as good as Diontae was going to be available, Q. And I've seen this theory kind of thrown out there by multiple different people. It's like you don't think a player as talented as Diontae is going to be available for as little as he was available for. But Carolina clearly had a reason for saying, man, we just don't want this guy here anymore. And Bryce Young's been balling out since, by the way. I mean, he's been going crazy. Yeah. So
a lot more composed, a lot more like, hey, I can spread the ball around, all that. I'm telling you, bro, like it matters when. So I don't think we would have won Super Bowl 35 if we had a bunch of stiff upper lip dudes in our locker room. We had some dudes that just at all levels were dogs. All levels wanted it. But the difference is that those upper tier Hall of Fame dudes, they were just like, yo, let's go out there and play. Let's do our thing. This isn't about, man, I'm mad because I didn't get this, or I'm mad because I didn't get that. It wasn't about all that. It was about let's perform the way we know we can perform. And I think that's something that needs to be looked at. And Carolina, like you just said, Bryce Young is like, okay, let's go ahead and play. I mean, that's football. Like, I could care less about a dude's talent if that talent like isn't matched up to a level of just selflessness, a level of competitive want to with you and your teammate versus, just all about me. I've seen so many me guys that you never win with me guys. You can literally go throughout from the time I've been playing up until now, me guys, they ain't it.
And that's the conversation. Even today, I mean, we've seen multiple examples of this. And what's all Deontay Johnson's talent doing right now for the Ravens is sitting on the sideline because of some of the stuff that's been going on with the drama. So I think the Giants game gave people a little bit of optimism when it came to both the star talent and the depth in this wide receiver room, minus Diontae Johnson. Rashad Bateman, Q, who I know you've been pumping up all offseason, all into the year, and obviously he has been incredible. 2 touchdowns on the day, his first multi-touchdown game. Tez Walker, first catch, first touchdown. You see Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, making a really nice catch. Nelson Aguilar did, but I think that hopefully, even if it's a different guy every week, they can provide what the Ravens need at that position.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is the thing. When you look at the wide receiver room, it is a selfless room. It is a room that has pride and wanting to achieve and doing their absolute best. I don't look at this room as, a underperforming room or anything like that. I think they're going to be challenged, obviously, in Pittsburgh. And I'm hoping that this game is a coming out party for them. And it's like, just decide it, period. Let it go. What does that mean? Like, from jump, we out here, we are dictating the terms. And it's something that hasn't been done in such a long time from this Ravens club. So I think when you see, Tez Walker, it's great that he was able to get that. Maybe he will, get an opportunity to do it in, against Pittsburgh, but I don't see it. But it was good to see. Scheme-wise, skill player-wise, like not just the receivers, but all of them. Like, man, I just think this is like all hands on deck. Ring the alarm. We got to go out there and play like A+ ball. Like there's no room for error, no room for he was covered. That guy made a spectacular play and stripped them of the ball or intercepted the ball or anything along those lines. This is like playoff on the line at the same time as Pittsburgh. You know we can't stand them. They can't stand us. Let's go out there and ball.
Man, and we're going to be talking a lot about that game in the final part of the show because it obviously is the biggest game for the Ravens remaining on their schedule. So coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about that, the MVP talk, obviously thoughts on the Ravens and Giants game, and a lot more. Stay tuned. Plenty to get to on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by the College Football Playoffs. It's that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, is guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers looked up at the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostraker and Qadry Ismail still chopping things up with you here. Appreciate everybody who is here with us today on Locked On Ravens, whether you're in audio form or video form. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button in video form and also follow along, subscribe in audio form. Hit 10,000 subscribers on Saturday. It's been a massive goal, first massive goal for a while here for me on Locked On Ravens, and I got my little Wilt Chamberlain 10,000, right? I feel like Wilt. I feel like Wilt with my 10,000. My 10,000, it's not really a piece of paper. It's a sticky note, but still, it's awesome. And hey, going for that next 10,000 now to get to 20, and then we'll continue growing from there. So appreciate all the support on that.
Thank you.
And I think, look, it's a great time to be covering the team, obviously, with Lamar Jackson and how competitive they've been. Obviously, I started the show in 2019. They haven't won a Super Bowl since I started, but hopefully we get that this season. But there's also, Q, everybody wants a Super Bowl MVP, right? Lamar Jackson wants, and I'm sure he'd trade his 2 MVPs for a Super Bowl MVP. But Lamar is in the running for a third regular season MVP at this point, through 5 touchdowns against the Giants, more touchdowns than incompletions again for Lamar. But everybody's just talking about Josh Allen. It feels like everybody's discrediting Lamar, talking about Josh, and it's like, oh, it's over. Josh is the guy, and Lamar is great season, but see you later. At the end of the day, Q, it's not that big of a deal, but my thing is if a guy deserves an award, that guy should get the award. I think that Josh is very deserving of the MVP. I also think Lamar Jackson is very deserving of the MVP. I don't think this award is over. I think we should let these final 3 games play out because I think there's a lot to be had here for both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, where guys like Dan Orlovsky, Rex Ryan are talking about, Josh Allen, and that's it. There have been a few people who have come to Lamar Jackson's defense, but it really just feels like it's all Josh Allen, and everybody's not really talking about Lamar.
It's interesting. The week-to-week splash of plays, players, and games, it has been a roller coaster ride of fun. Lamar just having, perfect passer rating games. And then you look at what pretty much I think everybody is saying with Josh Allen is his performance against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were undefeated. And then how that all played out. That's where he started kind of gathering momentum. And Lamar had the big it was just a drop-off against Pittsburgh. I don't think he had a game that you could say outside of Pittsburgh was just a drop off. Maybe you can make a case for Las Vegas, but outside of that, in my mind, I just think that the Pittsburgh game was the only really game that was Lamar, anti-Lamar-esque as far as stacking up, just the hey man, that dude, he doesn't look like an MVP. Outside of that, Lamar has been looking like an MVP every single week. And when you do look at the comparisons, Lamar's numbers, which is an individual performance, are far and away better than what we're seeing with Josh. Josh has, a lot of rushing touchdowns, and, he's had to do all those things. We've given it to King Henry, and King Henry's been able to do it. But Lamar's slinging the rock like slinging it and just having games after games. I mean, this past Jackson 5 game just goes to show you just how poised Lamar has been. And he doesn't, he picks and chooses when he needs to take off with his legs. Just probably took off a little bit more just so his mom wouldn't cuss him out. But I think the bigger picture is, this ball club, when you look at it, it's an awesome ball club that has in my mind, league MVP.
100%. And I think that this Giants game, look, I know people are going to say, oh, it's the Giants. They're not Giants. I'm not coming up here and telling you Giants are the best team in the league. They're probably one of the worst, if not the worst. But you did what you were supposed to do. And both guys have a shot at the award. So I want to see it play out. But I was really impressed with Lamar in this Giants game, Q. I was impressed with Rashad Bateman, as we talked about. The defense, I thought, did a really good job. Penalties were a bit of an issue, 12 of those again, so you're a little concerned about that. And, of course, going into a game against Pittsburgh, you cannot have those mistakes. But what were your thoughts on the game for this Giants game? And then from that, how do you think they can take that momentum into this Pittsburgh game, which obviously means so much when it comes to the AFC North?
Yeah, so the Giants, as far as what you were saying with the penalties, it was frustrating to say the least. They've been calling it tight all year. So it's not like, this one game is a game where, they've been calling it tight all year. And going all the way back to doggone OTAs and all that, I've been seeing this, that Brandon Stevens technique where he'll just kind of like, he'll smother the guy and then ride him down the field. And then he kind of looks back and he makes, a play on the ball. And, that's all well and good in training camp when you really don't have, the refs throwing the flag. But it's something different when it's the regular season and we well into it. We only got 3 games left. Mother of pearl, like you're a pass interference machine, and it comes at the worst times. And you're talking about a Giants receiving corps. Neighbors is legit, and they got some guys that can compete and all that. But by and large, like the bigger picture is the bigger picture. You're going to get some better teams, and bruh, you're going to cost us. That's just not it. And I'm saying not just Brandon, but Brandon is the ringleader, if you will, to use that term. But my God, man, like we've just been seeing it, this entire year, and that's really frustrating. I think, other than that, great game, which again you springboard into the Pittsburgh game on Saturday. And here's a key point. Did you see, I didn't care if it was 33 yards out, still a Justin Tucker type of kick, like just, whoa. It wasn't this like fading to the left or to the right. It was right down the middle. And that Justin Tucker type kick, man, that's critical. That's important. And I think, it was good that it was in the Meadowlands. It was good that it was, kind of challenging conditions. And he was like, handle my business. Let me do this.
Yeah. Massive game coming up next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, I guess now it's this week. Last week was last week, the Giants. Now we get to play Pittsburgh Steelers here in Baltimore. Comes down to which team will come out on top. Steelers win. They win the division. Ravens win. Will still need a little help from Pittsburgh, but they'd be in position to win that division. Q, appreciate you as always. Thank you so much for hopping on. Tell people where they can find you, what you're working on. I see you got your missile training and repping again, as always.
Yeah, man. It's all about missiletraining.com. Go to missiletraining.com. You can interact with me there. It is all about human and sports performance movement, the enhancement of it, the bettering of it, the ability to be durable. If you can be durable and you have talent, you will play. But at the same time, when you are hurting on the sidelines, coaches don't have time for you. Come see me. Let me help you be the best person you can be. If you're an adult from, literally from age 6 all the way up to 85 is my clientele. So you want to go and be a better mover in life, holla at your boy, missiletraining.com. Of course, WJZ is where I'm at on Sundays for my Purple pregame show. Of course, we also have Purple preview. And then we also, from time to time, you will be seeing me on the Purple Playbook Show. But every week, you're going to see me here on Locked On Ravens with my guy, Kevin Ostriker. When we sit back, we break it all down. We give you what you need. We let you know what it's all about. And I'm telling you, we have fun doing it. We enjoy interacting with you.
Absolutely. You can find Q on here, like you said, each and every single week. And be sure to support him over at missiletraining.com. Q knows his stuff, both football, sports performance, sports movement. Q's a very smart guy if you haven't already figured it out. I just want to put that out there. So be sure, links in the description down below. Q, appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who tuned in to Locked On Ravens today. On the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens as we dive more into this Baltimore Ravens team. So stay tuned. See you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.